Oh, 2020. 2020 has been reality altering. And with this moment calling for racial justice and climate justice, there's so much lost in not realizing that both are rooted in white supremacy. While I hope my channel has done an okay job at connecting the link between these topics, I pledge to do better, and I firmly stand with the Black Lives Matter movement. With so many more people getting involved in activism, I thought I would share a couple of tips and tricks that I've learned along the way of really how to harness our individual power and not just our consumer power as activists. What is the power of an individual? If you're tuned into the climate conversation, you might think that the best way to really harness your activism is by shopping zero waste or sustainable fashion. And it's really framed in this idea of systemic change versus personal action. When we see ourselves as just consumers, and that's where our power lies, we're missing out on the whole world of civic engagement. I believe our power as individuals is best served when we're trying to dismantle and rebuild our systems through government, policy, and structural institutions. So let's break that down a little bit. First, the bulk of our energy should be focused on systemic change. Examples of this include voting, being an active, engaged citizen at all levels of government, especially local, pushing the institutions we're part of to make a change, whether that be schools or your jobs, and joining activist organizations like the Sunrise Movement. Then, I think our life choices should best reflect our values to what we're capable of doing. Because a lot of times I hear people say there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, which is true, but we have to realize that we do have some consumer power, and it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. It doesn't have to be, oh, well, everything's unethical so I can do whatever the fuck I want. No, we should try to live the best lives that we can in our personal lives, through our personal choices that's in our power, but recognize that we live in an unjust system. For me, this is eating plant-based foods, buying secondhand clothes, choosing not to own a car, and these are consumer choices, but also choosing a low-carbon career, talking about social justice with friends and family, and reflecting constantly on my white and financial privileges, which are the personal choices that I make in my life. I want to pause here and remind you that I am talking about my own climate activism, but with the push for racial justice in the US, it's a good reminder that these are not separate issues, and if your climate justice does not involve racial justice, then it is not climate justice. But I do recognize that there may be a chance that if you're either new to the climate movement or you've been more in spaces that value outdoors kind of climate environmentalism, that you might not be exposed to issues of racial injustice. And this is a big problem in the climate space as it's not intersectional. And I'm gonna leave a link down below of these really cool environmentalists who are starting this new kind of movement. But focusing specifically on the issues of police brutality and prison abolition, there's some words from the abolitionist and educator Miriam Kaba that I'd like to share. Whenever we're encountering a new issue that we haven't previously been engaged with, Miriam asks us to consider these questions. What resources exist so I can better educate myself? Who's already doing work around this injustice? Do I have the capacity to offer concrete support and help to them? And how can I be constructive? So whether you'd like to apply the following to climate justice, racial justice, an intersectional blend of the two, let's dive into, once you've recognized that you're ready to get involved in an issue, what do you do next? The goal is to find the most meaningful way to engage in activism. So this is where your skill set, your passions, and your powers align. First, skills. Are you creative? Do you like music? Do you really like numbers and analytics? Write down a couple, 3 or 4 skills that you have, just like you were writing a resume. For myself, I would put down that I know how to do social media and data analytics, and that might be valuable skills to contribute to a cause. Second, passion. The words environmentalist and climate justice activist really can mean anything and don't mean that you're interested in one certain thing. So what are the kind of areas that you're most passionate about? Is it the oceans? Is it housing? Is it transportation? Is it business? For me, I really care about public transportation and how the media manipulates our climate conversation and marketing, because as I mentioned, sadly, I was a business major in university. Was is weird because I guess I have a degree now and I'm searching for a job. So you don't have to choose one issue because they're much more connected than we're led to believe, but knowing what really interests you is something that'll help you guide what organizations you join and what areas you can become an expert in. One thing to note here is that so many people do not get to choose what they're passionate about. If you live in an area where your water is polluted, you're gonna care about that. So just recognize that if you do have the power and the privilege to select the issues that you care about, that it might be nice to reflect on that privilege a little bit. One of the most important things when we're trying to figure out what we care about is how it connects to people and actual human suffering. So for example, if you really care about marine biology and oceans, recognize that people in low-lying nations are going to be underwater and their fishing stocks are being depleted as we speak, and that is a justice issue. Do you care about zero waste? Figure out where are landfills located, whose land is it on, and why is all of this food getting thrown away when so many people, especially in the United States even, don't have access to good, fresh vegetables. Third, figure out where your power lies. And hopefully this should be a little uplifting because we have so much more power than we think we do. I'm just gonna list a few here, but if you can think of any more, go ahead and leave those in the comments below. So first, we'll start off with constituent, which is my favorite power because I love that government, even though we're not gonna go there. If you're able to vote, which I know so many in the United States cannot vote, you have such a huge power in keeping people accountable. The theory of representative politics or democracy is supposed to be that we as individuals don't have to spend every single day writing, researching, and enforcing laws because that is what we elect someone to do. They do a really shitty job, most of them. There are some like my queen AOC and the lovely Ed Markey who are doing a great, lovely job. Cool. If you are in their districts, like don't skip this section, but you have a lot less work to do than the rest of us who have, climate deniers as representatives. Anyway, this theory of representative government is not working, and so we have to keep people accountable at the voting box, voting them out, but also every single decision that they make needs to be scrutinized, which is so overwhelming and draining. But when you figure out how a city council works and you call in and you make your public comment, there's nothing more energizing. With local government, then the reason I really care about getting involved at that level is they are responsible for climate action plans, they're responsible for the defunding of police. Referential. Do you have rich friends? Do you know some CEOs? Are you powerful even in your business? Cool, because like I don't, and most young people, most Gen Zennials, if you will, don't. But if you do know really rich and powerful people and you're not whispering in their ear to make a change, then literally what are you doing? Student. Being a student, especially a university student, holds a lot of power. Your presidents, your principals, your school board, they work for you. You do have the power to speak up and make sure that they know that what they're educating you on matters. Especially when you bind together with other students, you have a lot of power to make people listen to you. And so this is a really important tool in using the power that you have as a student. Workers. Some jobs are easier and safer to use your voice against your boss. And if you are in that position of privilege where you have your boss's ear and they actually will listen to you when you say something, then you should definitely use it. With the Black Lives Matter movement, we've seen a great example of calling out racism in company culture, and whether this be with wage gaps or hiring practices or even aggressions in the office, this is something that we have a big power as workers to change. And shout out to Queen Sola of Bon Appetit for really doing the most work. Hopefully that got your gears turning about what other powers you have as an individual. But let's say you have 20 times that power and more skills. How would you do that, Sarah? You ask. Well, you join a movement. There are so many people who care about the things that you care about and who want to make a change. And joining the movement is the best way to consolidate your power as individuals into a collective action. For me, I love and adore the Sunrise Movement, which is the youth-led climate activism network that's really pushing for Green New Deal and candidates that support this. But maybe you like bike advocacy and you can join your local bike group, or you really care about nature conservation and maybe the Sierra Club's better for you. A word of note to my white audience. If you're joining a group that centers on social justice issues and is led by primarily Black, Indigenous, people of color, then make sure you assess if you're the right person to be joining that organization. For example, a group in San Diego focused on racial justice asked that instead of white people joining their organization, they join the sister organization of white people standing up for racial justice, because it's really important to give activists space. Like I said, there's so many organizations to join, so just make sure that you're joining one with kindness, empathy, and knowledge. To bring this all back together, how much time do you have to give? I would say that starting at an hour a week is the perfect place to start, especially if you've never been involved in things. And digital activism is very difficult. I had a really hard time getting re-involved because I love being in person and talking to people face to face and forming those connections. And it is a lot harder when we're all sitting in our homes. Hopefully you're sitting in your homes, wear your mask please, and stay home if you can. It's a lot harder when you don't have that personal connection. What I had to tell myself is that suffering is happening now, and the longer I wait to get involved, the less suffering that I'm able to mitigate, and the farther away a just future is. So there really is no time like the present, even if you've never been involved before. This is me telling you, you don't need experience, just get involved, and your voice is needed, your voice is wanted. And even dedicating, like I said, 1 hour a week to just tip your toes in, try a couple groups out, and really figure out where you want your activism journey to start is so, so important. I hope this video helped you try to figure out how you can reclaim that power as an individual activist. If you have more suggestions or groups to join, go ahead and drop them below. I'd love to hear your experiences and how you've really engaged with activism so far. If you want more personalized advice, go ahead and leave those in the comments below. I'm happy to try to help guide you and be whatever help I can. But that's all for this one, and I'll see you next time.